Then our second lesson, first lesson is full completed.
Yes, yes, our first lesson is completed. We have started the second chapter in the previous class. If you have any doubt in the first chapter, you can ask me right now. Otherwise, we are going with the second chapter.
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay, okay. So basically, your exams are multiple choice questions. Okay, it is not like question answers and fill in the blanks. It is multiple choice question will be coming. So prepare accordingly. You have some multiple choice questions in between your chapter also. Exercise for revision, blue box. You have multiple choice questions. Then there are at least 60 questions and you have to attempt 40, I guess. You have to attempt 40. So prepare accordingly, because this blue box, after counting these blue box multiple choice, we are not getting 40. So have prepared from between also. The question paper is prepared from the whole chapter. The fill in the blanks also, and the true or false also. So prepare accordingly. Go through everything what I have taught you. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we will discuss types of flowers on page number 25. Page number 25, types of flowers. There are two types of flowers, complete and incomplete. Now, what are complete flowers? We already discussed that flower has how many whorls? Four whorls. The first whorl is the sepal, second is the petal, third one is the male reproductive system, that is the stamen, or we can say collectively as androecium. And the fourth whorl is the innermost whorl, which is the female, known as gynoecium. So these are the four whorls of a flower. Now a flower which consists of all these four whorls is known as a complete flower. Okay. There are some flowers which do not consist of all these four whorls. They are known as incomplete flowers. Now there are examples given. Complete flowers, that means the flower which consists of all the four whorls. Examples are China rose, mustard, and pea. China rose is hibiscus. Okay, you must have seen a hibiscus in your book also. On page number 24, on top, a hibiscus flower is shown. So you can see all the four whorls are there, sepals are there. Then, and even another pair of sepals are also there. If another pair of sepals are also present, it is known as epicalyx. Okay, and petals are there, stamens are there, ovary is there. You can see all the four whorls in an hibiscus flower. So China rose is the first example, then mustard, then pea. And I already told you, incomplete means a flower which misses one or two whorls is known as an incomplete flower, which do not have any of the one or two whorls. It could be any. It could be any of the one or two whorls. Examples are date palm and mulberry. Now we have unisexual and bisexual flowers. So unisexual flowers means either the male or the female gametes will be present. Not the gametes, the reproductive parts. Either the male reproductive part or the female will be present. Not both will be present. That flower is known as unisexual flower. And that is what is written here. A flower that has either the pistil, that is the female part, or the stamens, the male part, is called a unisexual flower. That is, depends on either. It is in either case, either male or female will be present. Now, examples are papaya, watermelon, cucumber, bitter gourd, and pumpkin. These are the examples. Please underline these examples. Examples are very important. In exams also, examples usually come, and in multiple choice also, example related question may come. So please go through the examples very
Which
carefully.
para? In which
Then
para?
page number 25, paragraph types of flowers. Have you seen types of flowers in blue ink? Then
Yes,
below
ma'am.
that, your two topics are there, complete and incomplete, then unisexual and bisexual. So we are in that paragraph, unisexual and bisexual flowers. You got that?
Ma'am.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am. Ma'am, where we have to underline? Where we have to?
You have to underline the examples. Both in complete and incomplete flowers, you have examples China rose, mustard, and pea. That's in complete flower. When in incomplete, you have examples date palm and mulberry. Did you got that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Then in the next paragraph, unisexual and bisexual flowers, you have the example. In first paragraph, papaya, watermelon, cucumber, bitter gourd, and pumpkin. Then the second paragraph, examples are rose, mustard, gulmohar, lily, peach, China rose. So this time you have multiple choice question. That's why you have to remember all the examples. But if you, when you have other kind of exams, not multiple choice, where you have to write the answers, then you have to remember at least 2 or 3 examples each. And the paragraphs which have only 2 or 3 examples, you have to learn all of them. Okay, at least 2 you should remember. Is it clear? Yeah.
Yes. Ma'am, second lesson is not coming exam.
No, this exam it's not coming. I am telling about the future exams when it will be coming. In FA1 only first lesson is coming. Leaf is coming. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't get confused. In FA1 only leaf first chapter is coming. Yes. So so we have talked about unisexual flower. That is either the male or the female gametes or reproductive parts will be present. What about bisexual flower? A flower which have both the male and the female part. That means bi. Bi means two. That is, two is referring to the male and the female. Both are present. Examples are China rose, mustard, gulmohar, lily pea and China rose. Okay. So now you will think China rose was there in complete flower also. So they can be same in different topics also. Complete and incomplete में भी आ सकता है. Then bisexual में भी आ सकता है. Then take page number 26. We have a box which has shown mustard flower and its part, hibiscus flower and its part. This is just for your understanding. Okay, you don't have to by heart it. This is for your understanding. That is mustard में कैसा होता है and hibiscus, how it looks like, how many sepals are there, how many petals are there, everything. So first we will go to mustard flower. Common name is mustard, sarso. Okay, Hindi में सरसों. Scientific name is Brassica campestris. Now try to pronounce these scientific names. These are tough. Your pronunciations should be very clear. So you are now in 6th standard. I can understand 6th standard students can pronounce little bit only. But then after when you reach 8th, 9th, your pronunciations should be very clear. The scientific name is Brassica campestris. Flower. Now talking about the mustard flower, it is a complete flower. That means, just now we studied complete means it has all the 4 whorls. Male, female part, then sepals and petals. All the 4 whorls are there. Then it is small, yellow colored and bisexual. Bisexual also we studied right now. Bisexual means both male and female part are present. Now, if the flower is complete, it is obvious that it is bisexual. Because complete means the flower has all the 4 whorls. That's why the flower is, obviously the flower will be bisexual. Then calyx. Calyx means sepals. Don't get confused. Sepals are collectively known as calyx. Now sepals are, just a minute. Just a minute. Yes. So calyx means sepals. Sepals are collectively known as calyx. So here in mustard flower, calyx are 4 green colored sepals and are free. That means in mustard there is only 4 sepals. You have seen in some flowers it may be 5, it may be 6, but here in mustard there are 4 sepals. You can see the diagram also. Sepals, they are 4 in number. They are green colored and free sepals. That means they are, you have studied poly and gamosepalous, polysepalous. I don't know you have studied or not, or whether in the 8th standard you must be having. So poly means free and gamo means fused. So here it is polysepalous, it is free. Okay. Then talking about corolla, petals. They are also 4 in number, yellow colored and are free. They are not fused, they are very free from each other. Talking about the male part, androecium, it consists of 6 stamens. You can see the diagram, 6 stamens are there. Gynoecium consists of a single pistil or a single carpel, we can say. Carpels collectively known as pistil. We can see ovary style stigma. Single pistil is there. Okay. So this is in case of mustard. Then, talking about hibiscus, common name is China rose or we can say gurhal. Scientific name is Hibiscus rosa sinensis. Flower is complete, large, red or yellow or pink colored, bisexual. Here also flower is complete and bisexual. Complete means it is obviously bisexual. Epicalyx. Now I already told you what is epicalyx. The flower which contains, so there are some flower which contains an extra pair of sepals. You can see in below the diagram after petals you can see sepal. You can see one pair of sepal on the top and the other on the bottom, which is known as epicalyx. Can you see that? Everyone, are you able to make out the point? Are you able to see? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So in this diagram below, just see figure 2.5. See, sepals is given. So there are 2 pair of sepals. One is normal sepal and the other is epicalyx. So the flowers, there are some flowers in which 2 pair of sepals are present. The second pair is known as epicalyx. Right. So epicalyx is 5 to 7 in number, green, and additional whorl below calyx. That means it is an additional whorl. Okay. That means in hibiscus there are 5 whorls. Right. Now, calyx, 5 green colored sepals. So, talking about sepals, they are 5. They are fused. That means they are very close to each other. And epicalyx are 5 to 7 in number. Talking about the petals, they are also 5 in number and they are also fused at the base. You can see at the base, they form a single pathway, right, to the ovary. So, they are fused. Now talking about androecium, many stamens are there, that is indefinite stamens are there. You can see that they are many, we can't count them. Upper portion of filament is very free, whereas the lower portion is fused to form a tube-like structure called the staminal tube. So upper portion is thin and free, but the lower portion forms a staminal tube. Gynoecium have 5 pistils. Stigma is free, styles are fused and pass through the staminal tube. You can see the gynoecium. It has 5 pistils. Okay, that means 5 reproductive female parts are there, which consist of free stigma, styles are fused, and staminal tube is there so that the stamens can pass through the tube. Is it clear? Yes. Just a minute. Then, function of a flower. On page number 27, now we will discuss function of a flower. I hope this much is clear to you all. There is some slight differences between hibiscus and mustard. That is, hibiscus has more number of stamens. Mustard has particular number of petals, sepal and stamen, but hibiscus has more number than mustard. And hibiscus, it is mostly the things are fused, but mustard, they were free. Now, function of a flower. What is the main function of a flower? Flower, now when we usually talk about the reproductive part of a plant, we say flower is the reproductive part of a plant. That is, the main function of the flower will be reproduction. Just underline that first line. Main function of a flower is reproduction. And it produces fruit and seeds. Now you all know flower produces fruit, seeds. Why? Because if it produces fruit and seed, then only the seed will germinate and it will form another flower. So it produces fruit, seeds. The fruit and seed are formed in a flower after the completion of the process of pollination and fertilization. Now there are two processes which takes place inside a flower. Only after those processes the flower is formed. Okay, so first process is pollination, second is fertilization. Now we will just go through this exercise for revision. Tick the correct option. The reproductive part of a plant is which one? Can you say the answer?
Flower.
Flower. Very good. D. Option D, flower. Now, the pollen grains. Okay, we have not reached up to pollination, so we will discuss it later. Okay. First, we will do pollination. Now, what is pollination? We already knew that the flower, to form another flower, it should undergo two processes. First one is pollination, second is fertilization. Now, pollination means, what is pollination? It is the transfer of pollen grains. Okay. Now, what are pollen grains? You know, stamens are present on the top of these flowers. These stamens have anthers. Some sac-like structures, some bilobe structures are known as anther. So these anther, they contain pollen sacs, and in these sacs, pollen grains are present. So these pollen grains are the male gametes. Okay, these are the male gametes, and when they reach the ovary of the flower, they fuse with the female part and they form the zygote. Clear? So the pollination, what is pollination? It is the transfer of these pollen grains from the anther to the stigma. Now anther is the male part. Just a minute, I'll show you with the help of a diagram. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just
Yes,
a minute.
ma'am.
Okay, I'll show you with the help of the diagram. Okay. Now I am making a flower here. Okay. Now these are some stamens. Okay, I'm not making it properly because this cursor is not that clear. So suppose this is a flower, these are the stamens. This is another flower. Okay. So this flower have stamens over it on the top surface. These stamens contain, I told you these stamens have anthers. These anthers contain pollen sacs which is filled with pollen grains. Now, during this process of pollination, the pollen grains from the stamens of from the anther of one flower will go to the stigma of another flower. Is it clear? Now, stigma is the female part. It looks like this. Like this it looks. Okay, from above it looks like this. Then a style is there. Then at last an ovary is there. So this anther has pollen grains. The pollen grains from the anther of this one flower will go to the stigma of another flower. The stigma is the female part. Okay, so that means the male part is reaching the female part so that they can fuse together. So this process is known as pollination. Is it clear? From male part, the pollen grains from the anther go to the female part, the stigma. So how can we define pollination? Transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower is called pollination. Now this I have shown you two flowers here, but it can be in one flower case also. That means suppose only consider this flower, don't consider this, just remove this, only consider this one. So in one flower also pollination can take place. We don't need two flowers for pollination. One flower also pollination can take place. So how? The anther is there over the stamens. Stigma is also here. Okay, suppose this is the stigma. So from here, from the anther, pollen grains will come to the stigma. This type of pollination is known as self-pollination, where in one flower, same flower, yeah,
Ma'am, in every flower has pollen grains.
yeah, every flower contains pollen grains. Okay, every flower, like we have already discussed, there are some flowers which do not have any of the four whorls. That means it could be male, it could be female gametes, it could be sepals, it could be petals. So except some flowers which are not complete flowers, all other flowers are are able to reproduce. That means they have pollen grains. Is it clear?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So talking about this thing, I told you what is pollination? Transfer of pollen grains from the anther. Anther is the male part. Male is symbolized as this. To the stigma of a flower. Stigma is the female part. This is represented as female. So from anther to stigma of a flower is known as pollination. Have you all understood this much?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, this is a very easy definition. Don't find it difficult. Very easy. You just try to make a picture in your head that one flower. Okay, one flower consists of stamens. It consists of stigma also, female part also. So the anther on that stamen that will pass the pollen grains to the stigma of that flower or of any other flower. That means other flowers are also used as pollination for pollination purpose, or it can also happen in same flower. So this process of transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of a flower is known as pollination. Now we have two types of pollination. I already told you. The first one is self-pollination, in which I told you only one flower is there. Self-pollination, only one flower is there. Okay. So the anther, the stamens have anthers at the top. Stigma is present in between. This is ovary, this is stigma. So from the anther, pollen grains will pass to the stigma in this same flower. Okay, the flower is not changed. In the same flower, from this anther, pollen grains will pass to the or go to the stigma of that same flower. This is known as self-pollination. Clear? That
Yes,
means,
ma'am.
yeah, that means
Yes, ma'am.
the flower is same. That is why it is known as self-pollination. They are doing it self without any of any other medium. Okay. So self-pollination, when the pollen grains are transferred from from the anther of a flower to the stigma of the same flower, or it could be another flower also. Okay, same flower also, another flower also, born on a same plant. That means the plant should be same. For example, suppose this is a plant. These are the branches. Okay. Okay, some leaves are there. Then branches have flowers over them. Okay, these are the flowers. Now this is a single plant which have so many flowers. Like suppose it's a rose plant. Okay, suppose it's a rose plant. These are the roses. Okay. Now either the pollination will take place only in this flower or in this flower or in this flower. That means the anther of these flowers will pass the pollen grains to the stigma of these flowers. Okay, that means here only the pollination is taking place, either of the flowers. Now, this is self-pollination, first type. Then we have another type also, not the type, but in another case where another flower also, but of the same plant. That means the plant is same, but this flower can pollinate this flower, or it can pollinate this one, or it can pollinate this one. Are you getting my point?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So you can see this diagram in your book. In your book, diagram is there. Page number 28. At the top, one pollination diagram is there. A. Look at A. Don't look at B now. Only look at A. You can see self-pollination. That flower is doing self-pollination. That means the anther is passing the pollen to its stigma itself. Or you can also see self-pollination among two flowers of the same plant. That means both the two flowers, they are pollinating. Okay, but they are of the same plant. They are not present on a different plant. So this condition, this process where the anthers are transferred, the pollen grains are transferred from the anther of a flower to the stigma of the same flower or another flower born on the same plant. You have to write born on the same flower, same plant. That only then it will be a complete answer. Born on the same plant. So this is self-pollination. Example is pea flower, pollination in a pea flower. Now this is shown with a diagram, self-pollination in pea flower. You can see ovary, ovules, stigma, pollen, anther. Now this anther have pollen grains. The pollen is transferred to the stigma of the same flower. Okay, same flower, pollination is happening. This is known as self-pollination. Or we can also consider one flower to another flower, but the plant is same. On the same plant, two flowers can also pollinate. Then we have cross-pollination. Now, what is cross-pollination? It is totally different from self. Self means either the same flower is getting pollinated or this two flower from a same plant is getting pollinated. But cross-pollination is what? When pollen grains are transferred from the anther of a flower of one plant to the stigma of a flower of another plant. Now there is a major difference. There in self-pollination, the plant was same, only the flower was different. Okay, in same plant, different flowers. But cross-pollination means the pollen grains of the anther of one flower of one plant. That means two plants are there. Suppose I'm not making a whole plant. Suppose this is the one plant, this is the another plant. So the flower from this plant will pollinate the flower of this plant. It will not happen in one same plant. That is why it is written pollen grains are transferred from anther of one flower of one plant to the stigma of one flower of another plant of the same kind. That means kind should be same. What do you mean by kind? That is species. Some flowers, there are many varieties and species of flowers. So these flowers should be of same kind. Otherwise, what will happen? If they are of different varieties, this cannot pollinate or this cannot help in reproducing this one. Why? Because the gametes change, their conditions change. Like for example, a human being's sperms cannot help a monkey to reproduce, right? For a monkey to reproduce, it needs its own gametes. Okay, a male monkey gamete will be required. Not a human gamete can reproduce a monkey. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just a minute. Yes, so as I told you कि अगर सपोज एक मंकी रिप्रोडक्शन कर रहा है तो एक ह्यूमन का गैमेट्स उसको रिप्रोड्यूस नहीं कर सकता है. That's why I am trying to say a human gamete or a male gamete cannot reproduce a female monkey, cannot help in reproducing or cannot fuse with a female gamete of a monkey. Okay, monkey के लिए monkey की ही gametes चाहिए, तभी offspring monkey पैदा होगा, right? So that's same in case of flower also. They should be of same variety, they should be of same kind. Only then the pollination will occur properly. Only then they will be able to reproduce. So that's why we are saying same kind. Okay, flower of another plant of the same kind. It is called cross pollination. Example are pollination in sunflower and rose. These are the examples. Please underline the examples. Page number 28. Self pollination also example is there. Pea flower. Then cross we have sunflower and rose. Now a big question arises. Now we knew that cross pollination means pollen grains are transferred to the stigma of another flower of another plant but of same kind. But how this pollination takes place? Because if the plant is same, there is no problem, there is no issue. It can just fly with the wind, or if the wind blows, they can pollinate and they can fall into the stigma of another flower of that same plant. But cross means the plants are different. The plants are placed at a very distant from each other. So how pollination will take place? How cross pollination will occur? So for this, we need agents. That is what is the next topic, agents of pollination. Now, some external agents are always needed to transfer pollen grains in a case of cross-pollination. I told you, for cross-pollination, an external agent is required always. It cannot it cannot happen automatically. External agent is required. So what are these agents? Just have a look. There are mainly three types of agents which help in cross-pollination. The first agent is insect, second is wind, third is water. You can write it somewhere in the space given there. You can write three agents of pollination are insect, wind and water. Just a minute. Yes, insect, wind and water. Now have a look at insects. How can insect pollinate a flower? Now you all know some insects like honeybees, butterflies, they feed on the flowers. For what purpose? For their food, for collecting the nectar. How honeybee makes is this house, bee house and the wax, how it makes that? Through collecting nectar from these flowers, right? So honeybees, butterflies, they feed on nectar of some flowers. Basically, there are some flowers which have nectars. Nectars means they consist of sweet liquids inside them. Some sweet agents are present there. So when they sit, like when this honeybees and when the butterflies, they sit on these flowers, the pollen grains from that particular flower will get struck on the body of honeybee and flower. Sorry, honeybee and butterfly, right? Just a minute, I'll show you. Okay, suppose this is a flower. A honeybee is sitting over here. Okay, this is a honeybee. So when a honeybee, or we can say a butterfly, if it come and sit over the stigma of the this area, this middle portion is the female part. Stigma is there, ovary is there, style is there, everything is there. So when this honeybee sit on the stigma, what will happen? It is surrounded by stamens. Stamens have anther. Okay, stamens have anthers. So when these honeybee, when they sit on these anthers, what will happen? The pollen grains from this anther will stick. Whose mic is on? Just mute yourself. Yeah. So when this honeybee sit on this anther, what will happen? The pollen grain from this anther will stick on the body of this honeybee. Right? It will get stick to its body. And when this honeybee go to another flower, for collecting nectar. Okay, it will not collect nectar from here only. It will go to other flowers also. Now, when it will go to another flower and it will sit on another, suppose this is another flower. When it will sit on another flower, what will happen? The pollens which are already struck on the body of honeybee, they will, when this honeybee sit on the stigma of another flower, these pollen grains fall on the stigma of this another flower and they will cause pollination. Is it clear? Everyone, is this topic clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I am repeating, when an honeybee or we can say a butterfly, if any insect like honeybee or butterfly, if they sit on the anther of one flower, what happens? The anther have pollen grains. So the pollen grains from these anther will stick into the body of honeybee. And when this honeybee will go to another flower for collecting nectar, this honeybee has already pollen grains stuck on its body. Now, when it will sit on the stigma of another flower, these pollen grains will fall down on that stigma. And this is known as insect pollination. That means pollination which is done through a medium of insect. Okay? But it is not done artificially. We cannot say an insect to go and collect nectar. It feels and it do by its own. And when they do this for a process, when they do this for the purpose of collecting nectar, this insect pollination occur. So examples, underline these examples: rose, salvia, dahlia, and marigold. These are the examples for the pollination of through insect pollination, through the agent insect. Clear? Okay, so our time is over. So is this much clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I hope everyone to respond properly. Okay, I expect everyone to respond properly. Only one student is saying yes. That means other do not understand. Is it like that?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
No? Okay. I
No, ma'am.
hope you have understood. This is a very simple topic. So we will discuss features of insect pollination later in the next class. So today we are stopping here. If you have any doubt regarding exam, you can ask me right now, because from 21 your exams are starting. 2 days you have leave. So please prepare accordingly. And if you have any doubt, please ask me right now. We have 1 minute. You can ask me. Like regarding the study matter and all, if you have any doubt, you can ask me. No?
No, ma'am.
Okay.